All right, ready. I'm here again out on my range because the lighting is pretty good right now. My house is kind of a dungeon. I don't really have any real overhead lighting. Everything's either lamps or ceiling fans, and I put all those old, you know, bulbs that kind of look like they're from like the Edison days. I think they're even called Edison bulbs, but anyway. For that reason, I don't get a lot of good light in my house. So I'm out here. It's a nice day, probably about 40, which to me is t-shirt weather. But anyway, I wanted to bring you another knife video. I have a few things to show you today. If you've been watching any of my other videos, you know I've been kind of going crazy with this whole acid etching thing. And I've pretty much acid etched every knife that I think that I want to acid etch. So my most recent one is my Emerson. Now, I've had this knife for years, and this is the Horseman. And I went ahead and took it all apart and acid etched the blade. It did have some stone washing along the top. And the cool thing about this is that when I acid etched it, it left all of the writing on the blade, which is kind of cool. I was afraid I was going to lose that, but I didn't. I took the G10 scales off, and the liners and Emerson's are made out of titanium. So I acid etched those two, and then I put it all back together and then resharpened it so that I got that nice shiny edge, but then a nice acid etched blade. I didn't stone wash this blade. I didn't tumble it. Just didn't really feel like I wanted to. I've been doing a lot of my knives that way, and I just left this one just acid etched. You can see the the pivot screw. Emerson puts that big flathead pivot screw in there so that you can adjust it in the field if you need to. And it's all worn, and the clip is all worn, but I kind of like that. And a while back, I took the old thumb stud off and put this 45 thumb stud on there. Just kind of ground down a casing, and I think that looks pretty cool. And as a result, I went ahead and put a brass bead on there because I'm all matchy-matchy. And my leather lanyard with my favorite snake bite knot. So there's that guy. Again, I just think it looks so cool. Just love the brass thumb stud with the brass bead, and then everything being acid etched, and the liner and everything. You know, I really like my Emerson knife. It's a good fidgety knife. It's got that wave feature. I've never actually used the wave feature. I don't know. It's kind of gimmicky to me, but you know, other than that, I really like the jimping on the blade. And this finger choil is the biggest on any knife I have. I mean, you're not going to slide up the blade with that. Very cool. And the G10 scales that they put on these are very sticky, and you can just really grip that knife. So still probably my first higher price knife I bought many years ago, and it's still one of my favorites today. I'm going to set that aside. Then I've got this one I bought a while back, well, a couple weeks ago, and I showed you all this one. This is my Bugout. I bought it cheap on eBay. It's a new knife, but you know, no bells or whistles or anything. So I did put this little stone wash. Well, I stone washed the clip. It's a deep carry clip. It's a really short one. I don't like those. So I put that on, planning the rest of the knife, which I will acid etch the blade. And any day now, I should be getting my copper scales. So, because this, I mean, these scales are nothing. It's literally, I'm almost embarrassed for this knife for itself, just because how thin those scales are. I mean, I like the axis lock on these knives. I mean, you can literally, you can even flick it with the axis lock. But this knife needs some weight to it, and these scales are nothing. So once I get the stone wash scales in, I'll put those on. I'll make another video. And you know me and my patina, can't wait for those to patina up and just put some weight to that knife. So that's my next project. That should be in the next day or so. So there's that. And then today in the mail, I got a new little toy. And when I said I have fallen down this rabbit hole of knife collecting, I have definitely fallen down the hole. So today, I literally just got this 30 minutes ago. The Medford 187F. 187 standing for 0.187, the thickness of the blade and the scales, and then F for flipper. You either love these knives, apparently, this is what I read and watch on YouTube, but you either love this knife or you hate this knife. And I have to tell you, I love it, and I will be buying more, and it's probably going to be my favorite all-time knife. Everything about it is just so cool. I'm not just saying just this knife, but just most of the ones in his collection. I just love that chunky look. And a lot of people complain that it's just too big and overbuilt, but when you have mitts like mine, you need a knife that's this big. I often watch this, when I saw a couple video reviews on this knife, people are holding it, I'm like, that is a big knife. And then I get it, and I'm holding it going, this isn't a big knife. I mean, it's a moderately big knife, but definitely not huge. I mean, I call this a medium-sized knife. This one has the PVD coating on the blade, and I do believe one of the reasons for that on the flipper is it does kind of slicken the blade up a little bit, so that the flipper works. Now, I am pushing on this liner lock to unlock it. Man, my hands are like leather. I work with them all the time. But this is my thumb, if you can see it. Just a couple times I've been closing this knife. I feel sorry for people with dainty little hands. I mean, I don't feel that, but if I didn't have calluses on my hands, that skin would already be ripped up. And I know it's going to break in, and I'm fine with it breaking in. But that lockup, it's about, you can see it, the lockup's about 30% on that knife. I think most of them are locked up around 40%. Just a few things about this knife. I mean, if you've watched the reviews on these knives, I'm not really telling you anything new. The one interesting thing is the pivot point. They use some kind of spanner tool. It looks like a 6-point spanner tool to take that off. I guess Medford does not want you taking his knives apart. So, but anyway, just a few things real quick about this knife. I think the blade length is, a little over 3 inches long, 3.5 maybe. I think the overall length of the knife is about 7.5 to 8. I don't really care about that stuff. I'm more concerned with how it fits in my hand, and it does. Another thing with these flippers are people either love them or hate them because they think it's going to catch in their pocket. I mean, it's supposed to be shaped after a trigger, I guess, and they're afraid it's going to catch in their pocket. But so far, I haven't seen any issues with that. I think it looks kind of cool. I mean, I really gotta work to flip that knife right now because it's so tight, but I'm sure it'll loosen up. That was a little easier. So yeah, it's got this like trigger style, so it's almost like a light switch opening that thing. I got the black G10 on one side, and then the tumbled titanium with the clip, deep carry clip on the other side. Again, it's got that PVD coating. The jimping on this knife is ridiculous. My understanding, it's so that you can wear gloves. You can get to it with gloves on. I wouldn't be able to wear gloves. My hands would be too, they'd be too big with gloves on for this knife. But I like the jimping. I like how overbuilt it looks, how thick it is. This thing is awesome. I like the lock, how the blade locks back in the frame. Let me look at that. Wow. It has this lug. You can't call it a thumb stud because you can't get to those things with your thumb. But it's got this lug that kind of goes through the blade, and then when it does lock up, it locks inside the G10 and then the titanium scale. So you got a real nice hard lockup, and it's locking up about 30%. Wow, I'm gonna have to work for a little bit to. See, I didn't even open all the way. It's gonna be a while to break this knife in, but I'm happy to do it. But yeah, the Medfords. Now I'm into the Medfords. And if you want a comparison, I just recently got into the Chris Reeves knives too. So I got one of those in my pocket. I got the Sabenza 21 Tonto blade. This is the one I also acid etched and stone washed the blade. So if you want a comparison on the size, there you go. I get them both in the screen. The Sabenza is obviously longer. Blade length is longer, and the body is also longer. Obviously not as meaty, but this is a longer knife and this is a thicker knife. So anyway, man, it'll take me a while, but like I said, I'm happy to do it. So I'm going to cherish this knife. I'm sure I will be carrying this thing all the time now, until it gets broken in. And I'm interested in looking into their other line of knives. This one I bought off of Blade HQ, and I think I paid a little over $400 for it. I had a coupon or a gift card, so that helped out a little bit. But when I saw this knife, I just had to have it. But anyway, enough of that. In my next video, I should be able to show you this guy, all dressed up, ready to go out on a date. Right now, it's looking a little sad, a little dainty. Definitely needs a couple protein shakes in it. It's a little weakling right now, but hopefully, with a little stone washed copper bodysuit, I think it'll look a little bit better. But yeah, there's my video on my new toy, my next project, my previous favorite new toy, and then my most recently acid etched tactical knife, the old Emerson Horseman. So thanks for watching, and I'll catch you later. Bye.